Hey, welcome back to the Spector Creative channel. I'm your host, Scott Toy Guru Neitlich, longtime toy maker and longtime toy collector. And, well, based on this image, guess what? We're talking about tooling again. Well, not again, just kind of a quick refresh. Maybe this is your first time here, or maybe you're done having this pounded into oblivion. The tool are those giant metal plates that are used to make anything made out of plastic. An injection molding machine essentially, shoots the plastic in, and out comes anything made of plastic that are usually attached by sprues or trees, different names for them in the industry, and you snap them off. The tooling that's used to make anything made of plastic is the huge capital expense that a toy company, a plastic cup company, basically anyone has to invest in. Once you have the tool, though, you can now punch this product out in lots of colors and variations. Now, a lot of times you have to stretch your tooling budget because you can't just afford to tool everything. So a good example, this B sheet showing how a basic buck, a generic body, can have different parts like heads, capes, jackets added, those are the parts in red there, to make a unique figure. And really the idea is to see how far you could get your dollar to go. If you can reuse a tool, well, that's a huge capital savings. And Transformers is kind of notorious for this, of doing repaints of characters. Sometimes because, well, this is how they were originally done. Other times it just works in with the continuity of the IP. But obviously Transformers is not the only brand that can benefit from this. Lots of brands have characters that are simply repaints. And if you have a repaintable character, is that a verb, repaintable? Well, it's a great way to be able to hit your margin and sales requirements without having to blow the bank or destroy the bank from spending all this money on tooling. Because if you can repaint a tool in a different color, and if it's legitimate to a fan base, great. It's when you start doing sort of illegitimate repaints sort of for repaint's sake, that it tends to skew even heavier towards kids and can even sort of, you can lose faith of who the character is. Now, of course, there have been instances in the past where characters have been repainted as other characters without retooling them, and there have been incidences of this working, and there have been incidences of this not working. But again, it all comes down to companies attempting to amortize the capital investment of the tool, which, again, for a 6-inch figure, can be about $100,000. So you're going to want to get your money's worth. The example I like to use a lot is this wave of Marvel Legends, the Beast slash, I guess, Weapon X Wolverine wave, whatever you want to call it. So this wave of figures features characters that are just slight new parts, new heads, new jackets, and then one character, Beast, up there at the top left, who's a 100% fully tooled figure. So a lot of money went into this figure while the rest just only needed small parts. This is used to do a full wave because you can sort of balance out. And then the cost of your fully tooled figure, Beast in this case, is amortized over several years by re-releasing this fully tooled buck body multiple times, sometimes with slightly new parts like a new head or new legs, but you get to use so much of the tool that it helps pay for it in the long run. All right, so there are some tricks, though, of how you can get a small tooling budget to stretch and to basically maximize that. The two things you're going to do if you have a very small tooling budget is one, tool a new accessory. So here you have the same Joker figure, now with a buzzsaw instead of a mallet. Different paint job, definitely reads as a different figure, especially if you're a child or a parent. The other thing you can do instead of adding a new accessory is add a new head. Now, heads get you a lot for your mileage, and that's kind of what I want to talk about today, because when you put a new head on a figure, even if it's a different version of that character's head, it adds a lot. So, as an example, when I was at Mattel working on DCU Classics, and we did this wave with Giganta and Gentleman Ghost, we maxed out our tooling budget because there was a lot of tooling needed, well, for Gentleman Ghost and for the Parademons, as well as the different other parts for characters like Dr. Fate. And I remember particularly driving with Bill Beneke to Warner Brothers, and we were trying to figure out a character we could do that was a head only. So in this case, Commander Steel. We were literally flipping through the DC Encyclopedia. I was in the passenger seat, and I think Bill was driving. And I had the DC Encyclopedia, and we're flipping. We're like literally looking for a character that we could do with a head only. And then we found, Commander Steel. We're like, oh, let's do Commander Steel. That's great. And it's not too much deco. So literally, he wound up in the line because he was a head only. We only had enough tooling left in the budget for this wave to tool either a single accessory or a single head. And when you're choosing between an accessory versus a head, you get so much more mileage because a head makes it a unique character versus just, updating the Joker, as I showed, with a buzzsaw versus a mallet. So you get a lot for your money when you're tooling a head. You get a lot more than if you were even tooling a new cape or a new arm. The thing about heads is they also require a very special skill set, which is called portrait sculpting. So while most toys are sculpted either digitally, like you see this one here, or by hand with actual physical tools, like you see here, the ability to sculpt a portrait, a face, and I'm talking about a non-masked face, so one where you actually, see features, eyes, ears, nose, that kind of thing. It's difficult. It's you have to be good at it. You have to be a good portrait sculptor. A lot of times you'll go to conventions and you'll see different artists showing off their portrait sculpts in order to show, basically they're looking for a job as a toy sculptor. Like, look, here's how good I am at doing portrait sculpts. And you'll see a lot of them kind of on pegs. A portrait sculpt is usually done starting with a photo or image of either the actress or, in this case, just a person who wants an action figure made of themselves, like that new cool Hasbro service. Now, obviously, if you don't see as much of the character's face, it's a lot easier because you don't need to have the likeness so perfect. But there's a lot to be said for a chin or a jawline. And the thing about faces is they also add a lot of attitude and a lot of personality. It all comes from the eyes and the mouth. So again, an alternate head or even a character that's a head only, when you go for the head, you are really maximizing not only your tooling budget, but you're getting so much more for your money. So there's a lot of toys that just do alternate heads of the existing character, multiple man, perfect example, because you might want to buy multiples of him. Or if there's a character that has different looks, like Jean Grey here, who had a different look in the comics versus the animated series, even though this is a animated series specific version. Or Iron Man, mask on, mask off. Perfect examples of an excuse of why you might want to include a second head with a character. If they have a different look, Toad here has both tongue in and tongue out, although there really wasn't a tongue out until after the movie and they rewrote his origin, but that's not important right now. Or, Sleepy Time Doctor Strange. Maybe you want a character and you want to be able to replicate, them resting for the evening. No, actually, I think he's concentrating on spells, but I like to call it Sleepy Time Doctor Strange face. All right. So, yeah, there's lots of reasons to do an extra head for a specific character, but look what happens when you just sculpt a new head and plop it onto an existing figure. You get an entirely new character a lot of times. So this essentially helps minimize the overall costing of an entire pack. So you have this 5-pack of Spider-Man villains, and while a lot of tooling went into a character like Razorback, you can see that Molten Man here is literally just a repaint of Johnny Storm from the Fantastic Four with a head. It's even an existing belt. So they just take a figure, repaint it, and if you have enough tooling for a head, bam, you get a whole new character. And you don't have to, it's the least amount of tooling to get an original character. In this pack, you also had Silvermane, who, again, was also a head only, although he might have had original guns. I don't remember if those guns are from someone else. They probably are, but the body is from this Beetle figure from Spider-Man from years ago. It was actually reused as Ultron as well, but yeah, that's where the body comes from. I mean, a true Silvermane should have been fully sculpted and looked like this, but when you don't have enough tooling budget to tool a full 100% body, well, a head only. One of my favorite examples, actually, of this throughout the years, I guess, is Captain America versus U.S. Agent. So they are both going to use essentially the same body, the same belt, the same boots. A lot of times they don't even get a new head. There's a lot of toy lines where they literally just take Captain America and repaint him and turn him into U.S. Agent. They did this both in the old Toy Biz days and in the new Hasbro days, doing these retro-y figures. But for more collector-friendly figures that need more detail, like Marvel Legends, bam, you get your Marvel Legends Captain America body, pop off the head, sculpt up a new angry head, and, well, now you can turn Captain America into U.S. Agent with very minimal amount of work. So without having to tool, capes and jackets, bam, completely new character, just color it in a different shade and pop on a newly tooled head. It shows really how with just a head and not even having to tool up different accessories, you can make an entirely different character altogether.
It's an entirely different kind of flying.
And in today's kind of modern a-go-go world where we are getting repaint after repaint after repaint, getting a new head at least can justify a new purchase and you can expand your character selection. The reason we get so many repaints is, again, because you have to amortize that extremely high cost of tooling. Another unique thing that I really do like what the companies do with new heads is keeping main characters out there without affecting the collectability of a previous release. So this version of Venom that came with a McFarlane and call it an Eric Larson Venom head with the tongue there, well, years later we got a new Venom, and this time we got more of a Mark Begley head and an unmasked head of Eddie Brock. Same exact figure, same basic buck, but new heads only at least refresh it and now don't affect the collectability of the original release while letting other people have access. It's kind of, well, it's different from just, a new hat, because while a new face sculpt can, make a figure collectible, a completely new head and a new character is really how you do more with less. You don't have to spend as much tooling, and collectors now have an additional character. It's, the Zaphoid Bezelbox philosophy. Two heads are always better than one, and if you're going to tool anything, tool a head. I hope this video was an interesting look at how tooling is amortized and how you can maximize that for character release with just a head only. It's an interesting concept, and so many characters get made simply because all they need is a head and a body.